Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Very good morning, sir.
Good morning, madam. How are you doing?
Very fine, sir. Hoping the same with you.
Yeah, all good, madam. Thank you.
Right. We are combating this pandemic and successfully we are trying to interact with the students in between.
Yeah, that is need of the hour actually.
Yes. And with the support of people like you, we are able to take up this webinar session successfully.
It's my pleasure actually, madam. And I'm always for the student community.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. That shows your enthusiasm to keep in touch with the people and share the knowledge with others.
Yes.
Right. So I think we can go ahead, sir. People will be joining in between.
Yeah, sure.
Sure. A very good morning to one and all. Hope you're all safe and following the COVID norms. Today we are hosting a webinar on the topic role of GST in the new normal. GST, Goods and Services Tax. It has been always a question mark for me. What does it mean? Though I hail from MBA, I always had this doubt in finance. So coming on, we know a basic concept that it is an indirect tax. So how did this all start? It was a historical move in India, remarkable reforms in indirect taxation, which was implemented on 1st July 2017. So this has paved way for a common national market. Mr. Our today's chief guest has been a stalwart member of National Council for Indirect Taxes, SOM Chamber, with over 2 decades of experience in the areas of taxation, GST, and production management, and etc. He has shared his knowledge through the books like GST for You, Roll Up Your Sleeves, GST are a few to name. He has also been volunteering services and is being recognized for the services. He also received a letter of appreciation from Regional Training Institute, Mumbai, for receiving more than 90% rating in all the sessions that he has addressed. Sir, this will be adding like one more feather in the cap of your achievements. Okay. Very warm welcome, sir. I would like to invite now Anish to introduce guest. Anish, you can take over the session and read the profile of our today's guest, Bogavalli Mallikarjun Gupta garu.
I think so. He's in the waiting room. Somebody has to allow him. Yeah.
Yeah, one second. Hello, Anish, are you there?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, go ahead, ma'am.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Anish.
Anish Jain here is going to say a small brief interview of us respected sir, CMA Bogavalli Mallikarjuna Gupta. Sir has qualified BCom, ACMA, MFM, MIOD, PG, CDS. Sir has also qualified online proficiency examination for independent directors. Over 2 decades of experience in the area of taxation, GST, product management, sales, operation, marketing, finance, and many more fields. Sir has also worked with many big MNCs such as Oracle, Infor, Logo, Systime, and Depot Groups, and many companies. Sir is also offering other services such as BCFO, GST, and management consultancy. Sir is a member of GST Grievance Redressal Cell, Telangana, expert member for Technological Development Funds Scheme of DRDO, National Council for Indirect Taxation, GST and Custom Duty at FTCCI, which means Federation of Telangana Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Sir has also awarded many recognitions, such as he has been selected as one of the most 100 digital influence from top 20 by Your Story. Sir's podcast finds place in about 10 top taxation podcasts in India at present for the year 2021. He has also been known for his Guinness World Record as a title holder for team as a title holder for most people running upon a single mountains. Sir's achievements are here below. He has been mastered as on GST launched by Sri Koneru Rasaya, ex-Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh and Governor of Tamil Nadu. Sir has also advised various corporate houses such as PSUs and other materials related to GST, finance, accounting, and IT implementation. Sir has architected GST solutions for various ERP and accounting packages in India. Sir, he has been designed a GST solution for
I think so. Anish is muted actually. Can somebody unmute him actually?
Yes,
and
sir,
profitably. Hello.
Hello,
Yeah, Anish,
Anish.
please continue.
Yes, ma'am.
Continue, Manish.
Okay, ma'am. Sir has also written books such as Guidance Notes on GST, Advanced India 2020, and many more. Sir has now been 10 top 100 digital influencers all over the world. Sir Mallikarjun is a great inspiration for many financial institutes and GST taxation details. Thank you, sir. Thank you for being with us, sir.
Thank you, Anish.
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah, Anish, is there
Yes,
any
ma'am.
problem?
No, it's done, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Anish. We welcome you, sir. And now the session is all yours, and we would like to have a session completed first. After that, a small break, and then we will be going on with Q&A, sir.
Okay, done, madam. I'll share this screen, basically.
Yes, thank you.
You are able to see my screen, right? All of you? Yeah. So I would like to thank the management of GST Institute for giving me this opportunity to share my knowledge and express my things which are happening in the current world of fluid world, basically. So in this context, we have decided to address or share our knowledge on role of GST in the new normal. Now, if you see, right, till March 2020, things were in a different manner, basically. You guys used to go to college, freak out, bunk classes, go to movies and all those things. But now, is that practically possible with the online classes? No. That is the new normal when we call it from the student community. Similarly, for the businesses, things have changed a lot. Today, we are not meeting the clients online. We are not meeting the clients in their offices. We are having virtual meetings. And these virtual meetings are going to be the normal down the line. And the pandemic has also given a lot of disruptions. Many sectors and industries have taken a severe beating, and it has given a room for the new industries and the new sectors. The one which is badly impacted is the tourism sector, the travel and hospitality sector. And the one which has given a very big flip is your edutech and fintech along with the regtech. Now, all these are one side of the coin. If I need to survive in the business, there is a need for me to re-engineer my business processes to meet the latest changes. And whenever we do re-engineering the business processes, the another challenge what we have is Does it have any impact on the statutory regulations? This is what we are going to see in a very bird's eye view, especially on the GST side. So now if you see after this session, all of you will get a fair understanding how GST needs to be restructured when the economy is from a reboot to the recovery stage. And which are the areas which needs to be revisited so that there is minimal revenue loss or where you can optimize your resources. And then what are the requirements which are mandatory to be followed? Whether you have a minimum amount of turnover or not, that's what you'll be having a fair understanding after this session. And content is very simple. And if you see my presentations, it does not talk about any words. It's only images basically. Now, as your management students, you are all aware of the 4 M's basically. That is men, material, money, and marketing. When I talk about all these 4 M's, there is an involvement of GST directly or indirectly. When I purchase any material for the organization, say for example, Gates Institute is procuring this Zoom online license, they have to pay GST. So here it is a type of material, but is not touched basically. We cannot feel it. Intangible material we can call it. Then management wants to hire some faculty across the globe. They have to pay honorarium or salaries, whatever is the thing, on that GST is applicable. Then marketing. Now to get more students or to get more publicity in the social media and the industrial circle, management has to spend few rupees on the digital marketing front. When you buy ads on the social media like Facebook or LinkedIn or Google ads, they have to pay GST. And then money. Yes, money may not have direct impact, but if it is borrowed from the secondary market, it is exempted from GST. But again, transactions related to loan processing is again applicability of GST is there. So in an organization, we have seen from the Gates perspective, all the 4 are key elements for successful. And there is an impact of GST. Then comes my next step is strategy. How strategy is going to determine the future of your career. What is the vision of the organization? And today with the pandemic-like situation, which is expected to be there for another year or so, and the people have already tasted the success of the virtual media basically. So maybe going forward as a new normal, education can be 80% online and 20% offline. If that is the case, do we need to have vast campuses? Ideally, no. Instead of that, the management can spend more amount on digital library. Get best of the breed faculties from across the globe because there is no travel. That saves the cost. That means GST is also saved, always saved. IT. Yes, IT is the need of the hour basically. One is for interacting with the students. You have a platform like Zoom or something like that. Then what about other areas like assessment, submission of homework, all those things. So there also we need to have infrastructure. Compliances, yes, compliances have to be met by the institute from time to time. And there also, if you need to engage in external auditors or consultants for giving certifications and all those things to UGC and Ministry of Education, it is required. And all the things, of course, since it is an educational institution, there is no element of profit. But if it is a pure commercial entity, then all these things will have an impact on the profit. And as a management students, tomorrow you're going to be on the boards of various companies, running your organization or working in various MNCs basically. So keep it in mind one thing, never talk about reduction of cost. Always talk about profit optimization, cost optimization. There is a difference between optimization and reduction. Reduction means you're straight away reducing the budgets, which the lower rung employees may not be willing to take it. But if it is, the word used is optimization, that means you're trying to get more or effective output from the limited resources. So here the whole objective, we as management consultants should be always optimization of the resources. So by now you must be very clear how GST is going to play a key role in any entity. If I take about a business like, say for example, manufacturers of laptops like Dell, they need to have a strategy when they purchase their material, their motherboards, chips, and their LCD screens, hard drives, and everything. Especially with the pandemics and disruption, their supply chain cycle is impacted a lot. The reorder periods have gone for a toss. Just in time is now a tested now basically. Previously, the auto manufacturers used to follow just in time to minimize the inventory holding cost. But with the GST or the uncertainties in the movement of goods and the cost involved because of the shortage of the containers in the international trade, things have totally changed. So if you see from this point of view, from all these aspects, how do you optimize it? Shortage of labor, people are reluctant to come and work. So that is where the room for automation is there. So all these areas are going to have an impact on the business. And every activity which is carried on the business has an impact of GST. Now, if you see this jigsaw puzzle, can we make out anything? No, we cannot make out anything. What is the shape is going to come out basically the moment I arrange the puzzle. And if I see in isolation, everything is working independently like in silos. What is happening in 6, 8 does not know. What is happening in 5, 3 does not know. That is how organizations never should work. There should be a close coordination between various teams in the organization. Then only the point of optimization can come very effectively. See. And organizations are run by the best brains. That is why I've given this image basically. And if you see here, GST, it's a simple of all these 9 topics. If you're able to handle all these 9 topics effectively and efficiently, your profits are automatically optimized in the new normal. Because of the paucity of the time, I'll be covering only the key components. And if at all, if you want to go through in more detail, you can follow me on my LinkedIn or my podcast. You can get time to time updates on all these aspects basically. Now, one second. There is some issue with the PowerPoint. Let me change the. So here, supply is the keyword in GST. Now I'll give you a small example why supply is very critical here. Now in supply, unlike excise or VAT or service tax, what is excise has been defined. When say VAT was applicable was defined. When service is applicable is defined. But in GST, all these 3 terms have been replaced with a single word called supply. And to keep for a safer side, what is supply is never defined. If I ask Dhruv what is his name, he'll say, I'm Dhruv. If I ask Anish, what is your name? He'll say, I'm Anish J. But if you ask a tax consultant like me and ask me what is supply, I will say, supply includes, I will say. That means supply is not having a clear-cut definition. So any activity, what you're going to do, like sale, purchase, barter, sale, transfer, exchange, disposal, any of these things are defined or given as supply, but other than this is also a supply. So whenever you do something new, that is what is going to be the biggest challenge. If you're seen the newspaper yesterday, right? Last 15 days or 20 days, if you see the Economic Times, I hope you must be reading the Economic Times newspaper being the management students. We are having a challenge on the intermediary services taxation under GST. And especially the fintech companies basically where they have the tri-party agreements with the US companies basically. Now that is brought under the net of the GST. Now, if people have assumed that that is not under the GST net, have established the businesses and decided their pricing accordingly. But now GST department has felt that it is a supply and it has to be taxed in India under GST provisions. If that has to be done, then it will be taxed at 18%. And many of you know that in today's competitive world, we don't even have that luxury of 18% margins in many of the industries and segments. So tomorrow, if all of a sudden the industry, what you have envisaged is not shielded with GST because of this inclusive definition, your top line and bottom line is going to go for a toss. Your top line may still remain the same, but your bottom line will be into deep red. So you should be very careful while determining your business model. Whether it is supply or not and how you are going to supply is also raises a question here basically. Let me give you another example. In today's world of virtual world, things have gone totally different. There is no requirement for us to step out of our houses and purchase goods or services. If I want to have a haircut, I can log into Urban Craft, select the stylist and select the style of craft I want to have it haircut, and then the person is at my doorstep. Same is the case with my food. I need not visit any restaurant. While watching my IPL matches, I can order food through Swiggy. Now, with the advent of this pandemic and pre-pandemic, the food and beverage industry has seen a sea change. The restaurants with the lavish spaces and high-end interiors are being replaced with a cloud kitchen or home kitchens. Now, what are these cloud or home kitchens? They are operated from a remote location and a centrally located part of the city. And from there, they supply to all these aggregators like Zomato, Swiggy, Denso, and so many aggregators are there which are at the city level. Now, if I want to start a home industry, and in fact, I'm a chef also, I've started this cloud kitchen also. So if I want to start a cloud kitchen, and the whole thing is customers don't come to me and eat the food there. So I need to take it to their doorstep. If I need to take it to their doorstep, I need to sign up with these aggregators. And if I need to sign up with these aggregators, for me, GST registration is mandatory. Yes, there is a provision in the law which says that registration, if your turnover is up to 40 lakhs, you need not take registration. But there are certain conditions again, which says that even though your turnover is less than 40 lakhs, you need to take registration. So this is how things are changing, and many people are not aware of all these things. Couple of years back, though this provision is applicable from 2017, Zomato and Swiggy have to delist more than 75,000 of their business partners because they are not registered under GST. So this is how your things are changing a lot. Now comes the next and the most important thing is classification. Now in today's world, what we are using for March 25, 2020 is sanitizer. Now the common question which I would like to ask you all is sanitizer a disinfectant or a cleaning solution? Please open up your speakers and then please answer it. I want the session to be more interactive. And also tell me why it is a cleaning solution or a disinfectant basically. Because you're going to go to the boardrooms of the top management down the line. So you should start thinking in this direction. And I'll give you the background also why I'm asking you this question. Or if you are not comfortable, you can chat me also. I'll check the chat messages also. Disinfectant basically. So Venu has given it. Venu Anusha. So Anusha, can you tell me why it is a disinfectant? See, this is where the technical knowledge comes to safeguard the classification basically. The reason is very simple. If it is a cleaning solution, the tax rate is different. And if it is a disinfectant, the tax rate is different. It is between 18 and 12%. Now, if it is 12%, that means the end consumer will pay me lesser price. That means, again, the purchasing power of the end consumer increases. That means there is a room for my consumption to increase leaps and bounds. If it is taxed at 18%, the purchasing power is minimized, which means that he will purchase lesser quantity. That means I need to plan my production cycle, supply chain cycle accordingly. So this is how your business decisions are taken. And I'll give you one classic case. This is not an issue with India. It is an issue across the globe. I don't know if any one of you have gone to UK or something like UK basically. So there is something called a packed cake called Jaffa cake. Now this cake has been classified at a lower rate. Now the department said that it is not a lower rate, it should be taxed at a higher rate because it is having biscuit and coated with some cake. And a notice was issued by the tax officials in UK. And the company does not have a choice, has to go and prove that it is a cake. Can you imagine how it has done that? They have taken biscuit packets of other brand into the court hall, and then whatever they manufacture this cake and another company's cake. They opened it, kept it in front of the judge and kept it open for 4 to 6 hours. Now, if you see the material architecture or the material component of the cake and biscuit is totally different. If it is a biscuit, it will become a bit moisture and soggy. Cake will have different characteristics. Based on that, they proved that this is a cake and not a biscuit, and that is how they're able to safeguard whatever decision they've taken is correct. So we should be innovative and see how we can defend our turf. So business is not only selling, business is also safeguarding your future interest for the decisions you're taking today. And then we have something called time of supply. So in time of supply, what determines is at what point of time the tax has to be accounted by the taxpayer. Now, many of you are all since you're coming from BBM in the first year or the second year or the third sem, you may be having something called accounting. In accounting, when do we receive the advance from our customer? So the human tendency or the business tendency is whenever you account it in your books of accounts. That means whenever you make the accounting entry. It may be manual or automated system or through an application basically. That's a separate story. But in today's world, are we getting checks physically from our customers or demand drafts from our customers? No. Is the customer coming to my place and giving cash? No. They are transferring money through IMPS or RTGS or Google Pay or UPI apps or something like that. So the provision here clearly says that your time of supply when you receive advance is the date on which your account got updated in your bank account, or when you created the account and entering your books of accounts, whichever is earlier. And this is going to be a challenge when you receive advances at the end of the quarter or a month or the year. There was a negotiation going on between me and my customer, and he is supposed to pay me advance on 29th. For some reason or the other, he could not pay the advance on 29th. He was traveling or there is some issue with his internet connectivity. So on 30th evening, around 11:30, he transfers the advance to me using online payment mechanism. My accountant comes to office and sees the credit in the bank account, and he creates an accounting entry on the first of the month of the next month. So whichever is the credit which I got, it is on previous month's 30th, but I'm creating the accounting entry on first of the next month. That means I'm not in compliance with my law. That is where the department can issue notices for paying me penalty basically. Now, two things I have to fix it basically. Either I need to tell my accountant, please download the statement on daily basis, verify it, and then enter the accounting transactions in the books of account. But again, there is a challenge there because of the laxity of the human nature basically, and because of the connectivity issues and the pandemic-like situation. So what is the best option for me? Apart from taking this compliance, how do I ensure that I meet the compliances? I need to automate my systems. That is where I try to implement bots or RPA. That will automatically create my accounting basically. Now, in that case, I'll be very comfortable, and then I'll be not having any compliance challenges. Now, especially with the new normal things, this has become the need of the hour. Previously, we used to have very few cases where even traders used to make payment online. But now even the traders are transferring money online to their wholesalers, stockists, or the distributors. Things have changed a lot. So we need to adopt to the technology to one extent, and at the same time ensure that customer satisfaction and compliances are not taken for a toss. Then comes my place of supply. So place of supply is very crucial in GST, as it will help me to determine what tax I need to pay. As you all know that what are the taxes applicable in GST. If you go for a creamstone near stadium in Vijayawada, you'll be paying CGST and SGST there. So that CGST portion will go to the central government and SGST portion will go to the government of Andhra Pradesh. Now the challenge comes here is, if you're going there and purchasing at creamstone physically, it is very simple. But if I order online and if I'm in Vijayawada, it is very simple because I've taken a creamstone, which is a F&B industry, and it has to be consumed within a short span of time. Now, say for example, because of the pandemic, I need to have another laptop at my home so that my daughter can attend her classes virtually like you. Now I'll place an order. I placed an order with Dell Bangalore. So what tax Dell Bangalore is going to levy me when I'm sitting in Vijayawada? Yes, somebody please answer it. I am sitting in Vijayawada and ordered a laptop for my daughter to be used for her education purpose from a Dell outlet in Bangalore. So what is the tax that Dell is going to levy on me?
IGST.
Yes, perfect. IGST is going to levy. Now, I'll give you a small twist here now, basically. This is again as per the provisions of the law. Now, the agreement says that, Dell says that you take an order, I'll deliver the order laptop for you, but you arrange the courier yourself. Or Dell says that I will ship it to your doorstep. In business parlance, we call it as X works. So if I'm taking possession of the Dell laptop at Dell unit in Bangalore, then the same taxation will shift from IGST to CGST plus SGST. If Dell is delivering that same laptop at my doorstep, then it will be IGST tax. Now, because of this pandemic, what is happening is my supplier says that I'm not able to arrange the transporter. My production people and purchase people out of exigency to get the material, they go and arrange the material there. Arrange the vehicle there for transporting the material, say from Bombay to Vijayawada for the manufacturing unit. Now, what is happening here? The title of the goods has changed in my name at my supplier's location itself. So the tax has been changed from IGST to CGST and SGST of Maharashtra. And as per the provisions of Indian GST, I cannot take CGST and SGST of Maharashtra in my Andhra Pradesh. If I'm not eligible to take input tax credit, that means my landed cost is increasing as per my accounting standards. If my landed cost is increasing, either I have to increase the price of my goods or services, or that will result in reduction of my profit. One simple decision by the production department's SOS message, my purchase team went and picked up the material directly from my supplier's location, and supplier said that since you have picked up the material, now the title of the goods is transferred in your name basically. See the business implications now. So this is how business is impacted now basically, and that is having an impact on my top line and bottom line. See, any activity what you do in the organization, please remember as a management for a personnel that it is going to impact the top line or the bottom line, apart from the morale of the employees. That is why not to impact the morale of the employees, we discussed that to use the word optimization rather than cost reduction. So morale, I'm taking care of it. Then what about my bottom line? So in order to maintain a healthy bottom line and a consistent bottom line, so that my script, if it is listed on the stock exchange, does not get battered on the stock, on the counters. So these are all the small things which we need to take care. Now in today's world, again, we are seeing one more thing, right? The way we are having this online session, now we also have something like Coursera, EDEX. All these guys are giving best of the universities across the globe. We can go and enroll and do our own certification courses from premium institutes across the globe. That is where my services of OIDER is also coming to picture basically. So I am accessing the database of Coursera from India, sitting in India. Now in this case, what is my place of supply? It is India. And these people have to take registration under GST. Now, assuming that one of you decided to set up an edutech company or a startup, and your course is being accessed by students and professionals across the globe. So similar to the provisions what we have in India, other countries also have a similar provisions there, because these provisions are carved out and drafted from the OECD countries guidelines basically given by the United Nations. So that means either as a buyer you're having an impact, or either as a seller also you're having an impact. So place of supply is also detrimental in determining what tax is applied on the transaction. Now, if it is a sale transaction and if I classified it as a CGST and SGST transaction, tomorrow department says it is an IGST transaction. My customer will say, you have shipped the goods, I've taken the credit, I'm not going to pay that amount for you. Then you need to pay that amount from your pocket. Now the question comes, since I paid same transaction cannot be taxed twice, can I get that money of CGST and SGST, what my customer has paid as money back from the department? In technical parlance, we call it as refund. That is also not possible because the input tax credit has been availed by my customer. So again, this is having an impact on my bottom line. And I've literally seen a person in Vijayawada itself basically who lost 40 lakhs because of this particular thing basically. So imagine how critical and vital is my place of supply for determining the exact applicability of taxes so that my top line and bottom line is safeguarded. Now, input tax credit. Have you ever heard of this word input tax credit or not? Guys, I want you all to be interactive basically. In a management meeting, if you're not opening your mouths, then you're treated as a dumb guy, and there is a high possibility that you'll be getting a pink slip. So communication is the need of the hour, especially in the pandemic-like situation. Yes, I could see some few chat messages. No. Fine, fair enough. See, that is what I wanted to have basically. I was discussing about input tax credit for last 5 minutes. Nobody has asked this question. It's very unfortunate. Please be communicative basically. Right? So input tax credit is the taxes what you have paid on your purchases. Say for example, I am running a consultancy services, and to give for my employees, I need to give them laptops because they're working from homes basically because of the pandemic. Now I purchased a Dell laptop, spent around 1 lakh rupees on that, and assuming the tax rate is 28%. So how much tax I need to pay Dell? Basically 28,000 rupees is the tax, and 1 lakh is the basic price which I need to pay for the Dell. That comes to 1,28,000 rupees. Now, if I'm selling the same laptop, so let us assuming that now I've changed my hat from an professional to a trader. Now what will happen if I purchase the same laptop for 1,28,000 rupees and then I'm selling the same laptop for 2 lakhs? Just only for the ease of computation purpose, I'm talking about these numbers basically. So what is happening here is I'll be collecting a tax of 56,000 rupees from my customer. And I have paid a tax of 28,000 rupees to the department. So when I collect cash of 56,000 rupees, apart from the 2 lakhs of rupees from my customer, I need to remit tax to the department. And when I remit this tax to the department, do I need to pay 56,000 rupees or adjust the 28,000 rupees what I paid on my purchases? The tax what I have paid on my purchases is adjusted because I'm into the business of selling and purchasing laptops, or rather purchase and sale of laptops. So the 28,000 rupees which I short pay to the department is called input tax credit. So this input tax credit is available only if I'm using the goods or services in the course or furtherance of business. In the course or furtherance of business means like a trader, I buy and sell laptops. That is in the course of business. Furtherance of business. Now, instead of purchasing and selling laptops, I decided to set up my own laptop manufacturing unit. So for that, it's not that simple, right? Overnight, I cannot take that decision. I need to have a feasibility report, see the funding availability, identify the land, and see the government policies. For that, I may engage a consultant who will give me an exhaustive report. Based on that, then I decide whether I need to set up a manufacturing unit or not. So for that consultant, I need to pay some amount of rupees, right? So even whatever my consultant charges GST on that, I can take input tax credit because it is in the furtherance of my business. It may happen or may not happen. Or in the furtherance of business, I gave a simple example of purchase and sale of laptops. Now I'm a professional, and today if I need to give any report to any of my clients, my team has to use laptops. That means it is used in the course of business, right? The laptop which I purchased it is used by my team to prepare a report and then ship it to my customer. Basis on that report, my customer will pay me money. So that is also treated as in the course of business. Now, if I purchase laptops for my company employees or my organization employees, I'm eligible to take input tax credit. But if I purchase the same laptop in my company's name and give it to my daughter for her educational purpose, is it a business activity? No, right? It is not a business activity. I cannot take input tax credit there. Now, is it clear what is input tax credit?
Yes, sir.
Yes, it is not a business activity. Perfect. So now we need to be very careful now basically. Why input tax credit is very important is there are certain conditions announced here basically. Now, what are the conditions? if am I eligible to take input tax credit or not. If it is a capital good, the treatment is different. If I have not paid my vendor within 180 days, then whatever input tax credit I have taken, I need to reverse it. Now, I'll talk about purely the last triangle, which is two components are there when I say reversal. Now, because of the pandemic, my customers have not paid me on time. And that has impacted my cash flows. Since it is impacting my cash flows, can I also go and discharge my payments to my vendors? No. And in many cases, in today's fluid world, what we see is the input tax credit is not being paid. Sorry, the supplier is not being paid even after 180 days. In such cases, whatever is the input tax credit I got him based on his purchase invoice, I need to reverse it on 181st day. Imagine a company like Reliance Industries or Tata Motors or Tata Steel or Birla Group. They'll be having tens and thousands of invoices. Is it practically feasible for me to verify each and every invoice name, invoice date on which it is issued, and as on date whether it has crossed 180 days or not? It's practically impossible, prone for human errors. So I adopt to technology to ensure that I'm in conjunction with the provisions of the law. So this is one thing. Now, second thing, if you've seen it in the first lockdown, first phase basically. So things have been announced very drastically at a very faster pace. Now, if I'm running a continuous manufacturing plant, can I stop my production in next half an hour? No, my production process itself will take around 36 hours to complete one batch. So if I stop it in next half an hour or 1 hour, that means I have a material in pipeline which is not yet completely processed. In production parlance, we call it as WIP, work in progress. So this work in progress, because 35 hours of material is not processed, I cannot sell it in the market. What will I do? I just need to scrap it. So since I have not sold this material, because the condition for me to avail input tax credit is in the course of business or in the furtherance of business. So I need to reverse my input tax credit on the material which I have used it, which has been scrapped. Or I am running a small supermarket or a departmental store, and I get all this bread, eggs, and all these things. Basically, I would say bread, milk, and some other items basically, which has an expiry date on their products basically. Because of the lockdown, I'm not able to open that. And for 1 month lockdown, I had normally this bread has a very short shelf life basically, 5 days or 7 days. If I don't open it for 1 month, what is going to happen? The bread which is there in my departmental store is going to go stale. A fungus will be accumulated on that, and it is unfit for human consumption. I cannot sell it in the market. So whatever taxes I paid on the purchase, I need to reverse it. See, one, I'm losing business because of the lockdown, and two, because of these provisions. And trust me, department is going to issue notices down the line if this is not done by the taxpayers voluntarily. Couple of years back, we have seen the Kerala floods there basically, right? There, the department has issued notices that taxpayers have not reversed the input tax credit for the goods that has been damaged in the floods. So don't be surprised tomorrow if department issues notices and people run helter and skelter for that. So we need to be very careful. See, one is how do I safeguard myself and what I should do. That is need of the hour for the management, apart from how to capture the customers. So we need to be very careful here basically. Or there is also one more condition, which is a green triangle. It says matching. I can take input tax credit only provided my supplier files his invoices and makes payment of taxes. And I have received the goods and services. Now in this case, I have received the goods, I have received the services, but because of the lockdown, my supplier has not filed the taxes. That means I'm not eligible to take input tax credit. So I have a tax liability of 100 rupees to be paid, for example, and my suppliers have not paid input tax, have not filed the returns. That means there is an impact on my cash flows. Had they filed the returns, I would have got additional 40 rupees. Now I don't have this additional 40 rupees. So what should I do? I need to go to the bank and withdraw my funds to pay my GST liability. That is again costing my funds, right? If I have a bank CC account or OD account or a demand loan for working capital demand loan, I need to pay interest, right? Again, that increases my expenditure. In a management parlance, it is again having a negative impact on my bottom line. So these are the various areas which we need to take care. So in this new normal, we don't know when we are going to have local lockdowns. In the first pandemic wave, we had lockdowns at the national level. After that, it has become a localized lockdown. So whenever you procure material going forward, when you get into the management boardrooms, you need to ensure that whether your suppliers are filing the returns on time or not. You need to verify these areas is also. So we need to be very, very careful. This is how it is going to impact, which I never thought of all these provisions of the law till March 2020. But because of the pandemic wave 1, wave 2, and the anticipated wave 3, I am required to consider all these factors before I enter into any of the commercial contracts or before I decide to make any purchase orders for my future supplies. Then comes valuation. We have seen what is supply, then at what time tax liability has to be accounted. Then we have seen what will the applicability of taxes. Then am I eligible to take input tax credit or not? And now we are seeing valuation. Now, what is this valuation? That is on what value I need to pay tax. Now, since many of you are from management students and all of you are from management background and some of you may be from the marketing also. Now, if I'm a marketing student or if I'm a marketing manager, what will be my focus? How do I get more and more new customers? That means I need to spend some money on it. How do I spend money? Either in way of ads or something like that on Google, Facebook, or Twitter or LinkedIn, or by giving them offers and schemes or free goods basically. Now, if you see here, right, from last March, how many of you visited a retail shop and purchased a jeans and a pair of t-shirts, a pair of jeans and t-shirt? Previously, for a minimum 2-3 occasions in a year, we used to go and purchase jeans and t-shirt and a good sports shoe. But last 1 year, maybe 3 has become 0, or in some cases 1 or 2. But 3 has never stood as 3, right? Practically speaking, when I talk to the people in the apparel market, they have confirmed me that their sales has come down by 98%. If I'm an employee, if I'm going to office, then only I need to wear a pair of jeans or a good formal shirt. But when I'm working from home, what is the need or necessity? So I'm managing with my existing wardrobe. So now to promote the sale, these apparel companies like Jack and Jones or Pepe or Wrangler or Killer, they may come and say that you purchase 2 jeans, I'll give you 1 jeans free. Yes, as a customer, you find it very attractive. Now let us shift the sides of the table. If you are a Jack and Jones guy and selling these jeans, as a marketing guy, perfect. Chalo, let's launch this scheme so that we'll get back to our normalcy, pre-pandemic level. Now, as a finance guy, somebody will be there like me. Yes, what you said is true. But who is going to pay tax for the third jeans since you said free? Is the company going to pay or the customer going to pay? Or is he required to pay at all or not? Tell me. That's a valid question, right? When I say buy two, get one free. Yes, can somebody answer? Is tax required to be paid on the third jeans? Srikanth has given actually, but we will charge the same cost or tax. Yes, that's a good question. So here again, drafting of your marketing campaigns is need of the hour. Now here the law says under GST, if something is given as free, that means your customer is not paying any amount for that item. That means there is no consideration in return for you. If that is the situation, the provision says that you need to reverse your input tax credit. So giving a free item under GST is a double-edged sword. One is I'm losing my revenue. Second one is I need to reverse my input tax credit. So how do I ensure that I don't reverse my input tax credit? Instead of using the word free, I will use the word offer. There is a difference, right? Offer and free. To avoid the litigation and issue of notices by the department. When is that offer eligible? When you pay for 2 pieces of jeans, I'll give you the third piece of jeans as free item for you. That means you're receiving something in return from your customer. That means it is not a free. That means you need not reverse your input tax credit. So this is how we need to be very careful, because that will determine your valuation, right? On what amount tax has to be charged. So previously it was a question mark is there because I used the word free. But since I know the provisions of the law, I smartly use the word offer. So for example, if Fanindra goes and purchases 2 jeans and he comes back, if I go to the same showroom and say that since Fanindra has purchased 2 jeans, now you give me the third jeans free, will the outlet give me? No, right? Technically speaking, if it is free, then it can be argued. But when I say offer, there is no such chance for you. So we need to be very careful. See, here I'm telling you the practical implications, how we need to take care, especially in the post-pandemic or in the face of pandemic, to ensure that your top line and bottom line are remaining the same. Yes, the purchasing power of the people has reduced, but we need to go for value addition. Then people will come. Now, if I'm selling into ladies apparel, basically kurtas or gagra cholis or something like that. Till now, I was supplying matching blouses. Now what I will do? I'll do matching mask also, right? So this is what extra you can do basically. But at the same time, you need to maintain your business also. So valuation also plays a very key role in the post-pandemic. period. And the next important thing is your return filing. Now, my returns are also key for my compliances requirement. See, for your student, examination result is talks about his performance. For a taxpayer, the returns what he filed talks about the performance from the department's perspective. What are his purchases? What are his sales? What is his tax he paid on his purchases? What are the taxes he paid on his sales? That is what is reflected in my GST returns. Now again, we have a jigsaw puzzle here. In isolation, in silos, nowhere related. And if this happens, I'm damn sure that department is going to issue notices. So if I arrange this jigsaw puzzle, everything is interrelated, interconnected, then whatever my written data, whatever I showed as 10 lakh sale, that is there in my books of accounts. That is reflected in my outward supply return, that is called GSTR1. That is where for 10 lakh sale, I made say 7 lakhs purchases, that is coming in my 2B, which is being filed by my suppliers. That is again connected with my accounts. The input tax credit and the sales which I reported in GSTR1 and the input tax credit which is reported by my suppliers GSTR1, which gets reflected in my GSTR2B, is reflected in my 3B. See, all the 4 points are connected right now. If all these 4 are connected, department can never issue any notice for me. If all these 4 are not connected, it is going to issue notice for me. And here I'll tell you important aspect which we need to keep in mind is, today we have an habit of using accounting system which is on-prem basically, like Tally. It is loaded on a desktop or a server or on a laptop and I start working on that. But with the local lockdowns and the unknown time when you have a lockdown, business extensions, all these things, it is recommended to go for a cloud-based solution. So that whether you're in office or whether you're in house or in your parents' house or in your in-laws' house or in your friend's place, you can access the information and meet the compliances. In the first wave of second wave of pandemic, what we have seen is many of the taxpayers are complaining that, sir, मेरे accountant नहीं आए हैं सर, वो घर पे बैठा है सर, गाँव निकल गया और मुझे टैली देखने को नहीं आता है. And people ended up paying late fees and penalties. Had it been an online system, based on my experience in the first wave, had I gone and migrated from Tally to some online accounting cloud-based software, I do not fall into this trap again. And many of the small traders, right, even though or traders, when they have turnover up to 10 crores, 15 crores, their chartered accountant or accountant maintains their books of accounts. And they maintain at their office. And your CA or the chartered, your accountant says that, साहब वो ऑफिस पे है साहब, अभी मैं घर पे हूँ, अभी रिटर्न नहीं फाइल कर सकता हूँ साहब. That is the answers we were getting, and we are getting even now also. So one is meeting the compliances correctly and how to ensure these things we don't repeat in the future. That is migrating from a cloud, from an on-prem solution to a cloud premises basically. So this is how things are changing and we are able to sustain. If not, it is going to throw a big challenge for us. And the next important topic, and this is the last topic, anti-profiteering. I'll tell you why it is important also. Before that, I'll tell you what is anti-profiteering. So anti-profiteering says that if there is any reduction in the tax rate, or if the input tax credit, which was not previously available, is made available now, you need to pass on that benefit to your customer. Now, if you see right, the medicines related to COVID treatment, the tax rates have been reduced in the recently concluded 44th GST Council meeting. Say the medicine which is used for black fungus is priced at 100 rupees. Now, because medicine is an item coming under Legal Metrology Act, it needs to have something called MRP on the label of it. That means MRP means maximum retail price, which means that the price which I charge for my customer should not be more than that. So if my medicine of black fungus is 100 rupees and assuming that 18% is the pre-pandemic tax. So this, when our customer pays to me, that includes 18% tax. Because of the government pandemic situation and to make the medicine more affordable, government has reduced the tax from 18% to 5%. So if I keep the same MRP, will it have any benefit to the customer? I mean the patient here? No, right?
No.
So correspondingly, I have to reduce my price by 12 rupees. Roughly I'm talking about basically. 12 or 13 rupees, whatever is that number. So if I need to do that, I need to take care. I can take care for my future batches. I can tell my packaging department from the so-and-so from today's date, you change the, revise the MRP from 100 rupees to 88 rupees. But what happened to the stock, which is already with my distributor, with my stockist, with my retailer? So you need to identify the stock which is available at various locations and then send them the revised price list or the pricing stickers to them. If department comes to know that you have not reduced the price, there is a high possibility that somebody may raise a complaint on you, log a complaint with the National Anti-Profiteering Authority, and then you will be called for a prosecution, and then you can be penalized, and it can result into cancellation of your registration also. So wherever these prices have reduced. So in the 43rd GST Council meeting, they have reduced the prices of some of the toys. Have they followed this or not? So if you're into this segment, whenever tax rate changes happens, especially in GST, and if your item is falling under MRP, basically Legal Metrology Act, you need to be ultra careful and follow the provisions. So this is how your GST provisions plays a very key role in the new normal. So in the boardrooms, what we are discussing is pre-pandemic and the new normal. And this new normal is going to be the permanent normal in the future. So always keep in mind that cost of non-compliance is more than cost of compliance. That means today, if I don't obey any of the traffic provisions, right? I jump a red signal. Every time I jump a red signal, I'm fined 150 rupees or 200 rupees. I'm driving a two-wheeler, and every time I step out, if I don't wear my helmet, they'll be leaving a challan of 500 rupees or 200 rupees. I'm not sure clearly because I don't drive bikes and I don't know driving. Assuming that it is 200 rupees and traffic department has issued challan for me 6 times, 1200 rupees. Now 7th time also I go out, if I get a challan, 1400 rupees. Is it economical for me to pay challan every now and then or purchase a helmet of 1000 rupees? Cost of my helmet here is much cheaper than the penalties which I'm going to pay or the fines which I'm going to pay to the department. Same is the case with my provisions under GST also. So if I need to run my business house successfully, all these provisions, I need to keep it tightly integrated, at least the bare minimal provisions, so that I move from a reboot part to recovery part at a faster pace and ensure that ensure that there will be no compliances with the provisions of the law. So These happen to be the books which are authored by me from time to time as an author and co-author, and I have now another 4 books under print which is under the process. So any questions, friends? This is what I had to share with you all. Because of the paucity of time, I have to curtail it and give very minimal number of examples.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Students, the session is now open for Q&A. Before that, sir, I request you, we will have a short break. Meanwhile, our soft skills trainer, TRK Singaru, will be here. He will be addressing the students. Meanwhile, students can get prepared with their questions.
So how long is the break, ma'am?
It's 5 to 6 minutes, sir.
Okay, done. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, friends.
Thank you, sir. Hello. Yeah, friends, here we have TRK Singaru, who is a professional trainer. He will interact with you for a few minutes.
Hello everyone, good afternoon. I am Singh, soft skills trainer from Gates Institute of Management and Science. It's a great opportunity to meet you all and talk to you all. Let us find out what makes Gates Institute unique from other institutions. Right? It's very important for choose one of the best institute for your career growth and your future. So in a couple of minutes, I will try to put forward the wonderful things about Gates. Right? The first and foremost thing about Gates is industry-driven syllabus. An institute is known for its syllabus. What syllabus it is offering and how it is suitable for the industry. And the success of your future depends on the syllabus you choose in institution. We here in Gates will offer you industry-driven syllabus. And not like that, you learn something and you go and do something else in the market. We are well focused about what the industry requires in today's time, and the syllabus we offer matches with the industry. So you are at the right place with the right syllabus. That's what most important thing for any institution. The second thing is very important is constant efforts to groom students. It's not like just a classroom training, just teach the students and leave them on their own. No, it's not going to help any student. The grooming is necessary because you're fresh from the college, and particularly when you come to this school, you need to have a lot of difference from other colleges and students. Grooming is very essential, like to start with the way you dress, the way you approach, the way you behave, the way you talk with others, and all these things we take personal interest on each student constantly. It's a learning is a continuous process. We just can't put something, just this all the necessary. We have a lot of things to groom students from the day one we start. They should feel more confident about the things they learn and they talk, they behave, the dress, everything will groom them. So this also makes unique from other colleges as far Gates is concerned. And we have career enhancing options in pure management section. Like most of the times it is observed, it's a practical thing you come across in life. You would have seen your seniors, maybe somebody in your family, they complete some degree and join something where it is not matching with each other. So what we do here is avoid, what man will be successful, student will be successful once he likes what he wants to do. Here we choose you this what you want, how the industry is doing, and we put you there so that your growth and your future is safeguarded. Not like you are studying something and doing something differently. Even that options will very minimal here. So we'll try to update ourselves. We try to update our students. We watch industry, how the industry is going, and we guide our students to take total management sector, thereby their efforts and their future is safeguarded. All right, these are the couple of things which makes Gates very unique from other institutions. Well, friends, wow, this is a very wonderful training and practical approach. It's not like just reading and studying in room makes a man. Generally we believe practical things are very important, and seeing is believing is one thing, but you participate. There's one saying says, you see, you forget within 10 seconds. If you write, you remember for a couple of minutes, but you practically involve, it stays in your back of your mind. The approach is very clear here. We have a lot of training on practical approach. We make the students to see the industries and see how the show them practically. And not only this, and we have coming from successful people from the industry will come and address them so that they'll get exposed, so that once they go into the field, they have all the backup for practical things. It is always helps the students to get a practical training on practical approach. This is very important, and we are proud to say that we offer this kind of wonderful things for our students. And next one is, this is what you need. Even nowadays, even mother cooking curries in kitchen also looks at YouTube and starts cooking. So new things, you need to go for periodical internships. They need to get to know what's happening in the industry, so that what we do here is we send our students, future managers, future businessmen, future entrepreneurs to different factories, belongs to different sectors, and they spend time, not one day, special training, means is time, maybe 1 month or 2 months time. Will they spend it and they grasp, they understand the approach, everything they say. So it's not once in a while, we do 5 semester once, every semester we do that. So students are well exposed and they mentally prepared and they imagine how the future will be in different sectors. So this is very, very essential for students in modern world, particularly after post-COVID. People believe skill is most important, and you need to have that kind of exposure to different internships, and they need to practically involve and prepare and present, and then they will have a lot of exposure and knowledge. Wow. Unlike other colleges, other things, where faculty focuses what they want to teach. This is not faculty-centric teaching here. We go with learner-centric teaching. Please try to understand this. What classroom wants, that will match. It's not like prepared syllabus and just come and dump and tell them, and this is what happening around the world. No, absolutely no. We have learner-centric teaching, in the sense what students need, how the student need. In other words, I can tell you, student-friendly approach in teaching. Nowadays, I don't need to talk more about it, but you can't make them sit in a room and muck up them and dump the information in the brain. It is not going to work here. We pick up something which a learner wants, what he wants. That approach is very, very unique in Gates Institute of Management Science. My dear friends, I can tell you many more, but it is not the last. There are many things, but in a limited time, these are things you cannot find in any other institution. Thank you so much for giving this opportunity. If you have any queries and questions, you feel free to talk to our help desks in institute, or you can talk to anybody. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Take care.
Hello. Thank you, sir, for speaking a few words about GATES. Participants, now the Q&A session will start. Hope all of you are ready with the questions, because GST is something what right from common man to every businessman, it is need of the hour. So let us, we are having the excellent resource person over here to clear all the doubts. So let us start clarifying our doubts one by one. Please introduce yourself and pose the question, sir.
Giridhar Garu, you are on mute, sir, actually.
Namaskar, sir. Just very good afternoon. Right now, I'm placement director in NVR and VSR degree engineering college. Both, I think you know very well about Tenali, near
Right.
Tenali, sir.
Right.
So
Okay.
I visited number of times GATE coaching center.
Okay.
I did MBA HR. I'm doing right now MBA HR, sir.
Okay. Great.
Very much interested, sir.
Yeah.
Mallikarjun Gupta garu is really good. Very honored to be a part of this session. So I just want to say thank you, sir. Thank you for
Pleasure
your
is mine, sir. Pleasure is mine, sir.
any doubt, further doubt, any doubt, I will call you personally, sir. No problem.
Yeah, please, definitely, sir.
Students who interested to join your branch, Vijayawada.
Okay, sure,
Okay,
sir.
I'm staying in Ailapuram opposite. We have one office, sir. Kindly meet me, sir. We will discuss about it in detail.
Yeah, sure, sir. Next time when I come to meet my parents, I'll be coming definitely. My parents are from Vijayawada only. They're in Vijayawada now, actually.
Sure.
Sure, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you all. Thank you, Gate Institute of. Is it Gate Institute is related to? I mean, only management session or engineering also, sir? It is only management institution.
It's only management institution.
Okay. Any engineering also there, ma'am?
No, sir. No. We offer only pure management courses, BBA and MBA.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Okay, Anusha has asked a question. How GST will help the business people? See, I'll tell you better one small thing basically. Prior to GST, right, things were different in different states. Say, for example, if I'm purchasing betel nut, right? In Andhra Pradesh, we call it as betel nut. But if I go to Kerala and Karnataka, it is called as RK nut. So the question comes is whenever I need to issue a document called C form for the tax rates. So the taxpayer in Andhra Pradesh was issuing a C form with betel nut, whereas the Karnataka and the Kerala department officers were not accepting because it is not having betel nut in their list of goods and services basically. So that was becoming a challenge to have interstate transactions. With GST, things have become very, very simple. Now the tax rates are same across the country. The item classification, it is called as not betel nut or RK nut, but it is identified with a number called HSN code, Harmonized System of Nomenclature. So people will be issuing invoices based on your HSN number. So that is how it is becoming and helping the businessmen to expand their wings and make business across the country. Only sky is the limit for the growth of the businesses. Hope this answers your question, Anusha.
Sir,
Sir,
there is a
this,
question by a student. Yeah. Sir, I have posted it, sir, publicly. So are the goods procured for CSR activities exempted from GST?
No, but they're not exempted as of now. We have represented through the institute and various professional bodies to exempt this from GST basically, or at least give them input tax credit facility. As on date, any items given for CSR activity, you have to pay GST and you have to debit to your P&L account. No choice in that actually as on date.
Hope that would have cleared the doubt, sir. Yes, someone was speaking. You can go ahead, madam.
Sir, this is Shruta Kirti. So my question was about the last discussed topic, anti-profiting.
Right.
So this anti-profiting, it was actually introduced by under Section 171 of CGST Act 2017, right, sir?
Right. Yes, ma'am.
So I have seen that when we actually introduced this concept of GST in Singapore in 1994, there has been some inflation and some other problems, economic problems faced. So why do we actually need this, sir, this anti-profiting?
Okay, I'll tell you the small example, madam. Basically, what happens is what you have rightly pointed out in Singapore and other nations on the rollout of GST, the inflation has went almost a 1% basically, or we normally call it as 100 basis points to 400 basis points. The inflation has increased across the globe. India is an exception for this actually. The reason is we already had taxes like excise, VAT, service tax, and state levies and everything. Now what we have done is, instead of having with multiple entities, we are merging into one single entity. That is why this impact is not felt in India. Number two,
Yes, sir.
and here in India, right, why coming across the globe, why this anti-profiting provision is required? We discussed the topic of input tax credit, right? See, prior to VAT in India, we had something called till 2004 called local sales tax. So in local sales tax, for me, input tax credit was not eligible for me.
Yes, sir.
Because now with the VAT, input tax credit was eligible. Number one. Number two, before GST, right? I'll give you one more example. Say, for example, I'm running a shopper stop basically. In shopper stop, what I do I do manufacturing or selling of apparel there? I do sale of apparel. And whatever, when I make purchases from Aditya Birla Group or Jack and Jones or Killer, they're manufacturers. They levy excess duty and give it to that apparels for me. And when I sell it, I cannot take input tax credit because excess duty input tax credit is not eligible to set off with the VAT input tax credit. That is why the cost was high. Now with the GST, there is nothing called excise, nothing called VAT, nothing called service tax. There is only one tax. Whatever is the input, I'm eligible to take the output input tax rate basically for my output tax. So that is why the prices will come down basically. And that has mandated the governments across the globe to implement anti-profiteering. As the businessman's mentality is, this is my additional income, additional profit. That is
Yes,
going
sir.
to defeat the whole crux of implementation of a GST or a VAT reform in the nation. That is why this
Yes,
provision has been brought very clearly across the countries basically.
Mm.
Yes, ma'am. Hope this answers your question.
Yes, sir. So one more doubt, sir.
Yeah, please.
So the Reliance and some other Geo, it may be any other industries. So they have this act of unreasonable profits, like you have said, no, sir. The additional profits that they actually make. So to reach these benefits of redemption of prices should reach the consumers. So as such, we need this anti-profiting.
Yes, perfect, madam. Perfect.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
That was a good question, ma. Yeah. So a couple of questions in chat.
Yeah, I could see in the chat box basically. Let me take the first question, how it's going to impact the MSMEs. See, I'll tell you, yeah. Number two, they don't have much wider a market because they're not accessible. So with the rollout of GST, they're brought into the ecosystem. What happens is MSMEs, here again, a thumb rule or the question which the industry asked me basically is why small taxpayers also brought into the tax net. Suppose if I'm an MSME and if I'm not eligible to take input tax credit, what is going to happen? My cost of goods or services will be high. And next door, there is a large unit and he can take input tax credit. So whenever my customer comes, will they buy from me or by my neighbor who is availing the input tax credit? They will buy from him because the cost is lesser there. So with the rollout of GST, a uniform level playing field is provided, be it a large player or a small taxpayer. So they can expand their markets and be competitive in the international markets and the national markets. So this is how MSMEs are being helped out. But the flip side is, since they're from the unorganized sector, they're facing a challenge of adoption and meeting the compliances under GST. Yes, over a period of 3.5 years, things have settled down and it will take some more time so that they can reap more benefits. Yeah. Does this answer your question, Anmol? Next question is GST good or bad for common man? If you ask me in a personal capacity, it is very good. The reason is Today, everything is transparent. As a consumer, you need to know what are the taxes you are paying. Till 1st July 2017, if you have stepped into any of the supermarket, whenever you purchased any item there, like a soap or a talcum powder or a shampoo, you were paying only VAT. What was the taxes behind VAT? You were not aware of it because transparency is missing there. But with GST, what are all the taxes is shown upfront on your tax invoice under GST, whether it is CGST or SGST or IGST. So this has brought in the transparency, and business are forced to reduce the prices. If you ask me personally, yes, it is good for the common man. Okay, how does GST Council function? If you see the provisions of our article, we have both the state list and concurrent list and central list. I'm not going into the article's definition and all those things. I'm giving a bird's eye view basically. Now, since GST is being taxed for both the state and central together, center cannot take decisions on behalf of the state. So there is a need for a common council or a union where people will work where they'll work together, come to a consensus and take a decision. So GST Council has a representative who is normally the chief minister of the state. Apart from that, you have the central finance minister, the finance secretary, and the minister of state for finance at the central level. And if any decision has to be taken, everybody has to agree. In case if there is no consensus, then it will go for voting. And once it goes for voting, the voting rights are also given in such a way that neither the states nor the center has absolute majority at any point of time. So the center has 1/3 voting rights and states have 2/3 voting right for that. And this GST Council is meeting at regular intervals to take decisions related to classification, rates, procedural things, and introduction of new provisions from time to time. And till date, we had 44 GST Council meetings.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
I think only one more last question we can go with because we are running time.
Yes.
Sir, Rudra has asked, like, how would a transaction of supply of goods and services within a particular state and taxes state can be taxed simultaneously under both GST and state SGT?
That is again going back to the provisions of the Constitution, right? The father of our Constitution, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, has clearly envisaged how the political ecosystem works in India. Classic example, he has seen pre-independence, how political parties were fighting. Now, if that autonomy is not given for the states to collect and levy taxes, it becomes a challenge because in India, we have gone for a democratic approach. That means at any given point of time, there are more than one political party. If center is ruled by political party A and state is ruled by political party B, then because of the political reasons, central funds to the state will not be transferred where political party B is ruling that state. To have an overall economic development in the nation, that is why the states are also given the autonomy to levy taxes and collect taxes on certain items. And whatever is the taxes collected at the central level is distributed through a finance commission based on the development ratio, how much share of the common pool of taxes should go to the states basically. So based on the constitutional provisions it is having, and this is called dual GST. We have adopted the model of Canada and Brazil where they have this dual GST.
Okay. Sir, this is my personal query, sir. I came across that it was initially stated by Atal Bihari Vajpayee in 2007. Is it true, sir? Why did it take so long until 2017, almost 10 years?
Okay. When I tell my answer right, you'll change your opinion. You said 10 years is a very short span.
Oh.
See, the rollout of GST process has started way back in the year I was born in 1974.
Oh God, huh?
From 1974, when we had the Excise and Sales Tax Act, right, Basic Salt Act, that time even in excise also input tax rate was not eligible. So based on this JA committee report, then the excise tax was made eligible as a mod VAT. And then we had this local sales tax that was made eligible through VAT. And then service tax came into picture in between to merge all these things so that there is a smooth transition. We have taken so many years, and lack of political will also has derailed the process actually.
Okay.
Yeah, it's almost 40 plus years it took for us to roll out GST in India.
Okay. Thank you, sir. I was thinking 10 years. You made
No.
Okay. Sir, I think you have given almost 2 hours. We have taken your time.
Yes.
Thank you, sir, making the session quite interactive, and the way you have explained it in a smoother way with simple images, connecting it to management. You made the content quite relevant, sir. Thank you. And I also thank our management for giving this opportunity. Now I request Chiranjeevi to propose vote of thanks.
Yes, ma'am.
Chiranjeevi, are you here?
Yes, ma'am.
Switch on your video.
Hi, sir. I am Chiranjeev Prasad Sripada, behalf of Gates Institute of Management and Sciences. I propose thank to keynote of our honorable chief guest, Bogavalli Mallikarjun Gupta, sir. BCom, ACMA, MFM, MIOD, PG CDS, who gave his precious time for busy schedule and sharing us vital knowledge. He take out time from his busy schedule to grace the event. Thank you for inspiring and encouraging us with your votes on this special day, sir.
Thank you, Chiranjeevi. And yeah, please continue.
I think today's session was full of knowledge and interesting things, and we are satisfied with doubts about GST. And I'm pretty sure the precious knowledge that Mr. Gupta sir gave us will definitely help us in our studies and future. I must not forget to thank the organizing team and faculty for working hard from the last few days to make this webinar successful. I congratulate all the students as well as the participants for their active participation. And it is an honor for me to have the opportunity to give a vote of thanks on this special day. An encouragement of our directors Kishan sir and KP sir and head of the department Sri Joshna ma'am. Thank you. Thank you everyone once again for it making a great success.
Ma'am, I shared the PPT with you. Sorry, late night I've shared it with you because of my other commitments. You can circulate the PPT with the students.
Sure, sir. Actually, our students who are entering into third BBA and the specialization of finance have income tax. So this would pave way for them to learn right from GST, indirect taxes onwards. They will start learning, I believe.
Right.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you all, and it's my pleasure to connect with the student community always. Thank you all. Stay safe and stay blessed.
Thank you once again, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.